Hello there and welcome. So today I thought we could try something new, and this is something that I've been thinking about for a little while and something that I have heavily featured on this channel so far, and that's the upscale technique. And the reason I've been heavily thinking about this in particular for a while is because I have been wondering how to do some kind of art jam or upscale technique. At least the preliminaries, because a preliminary doesn't take so long, so it's a good way to make an art jam that is more composition focused rather than focused on painting small things that are a bit like a sticker. But obviously those small things don't take as much time to paint, which is why they're typically good for art jams. But I think doing just preliminaries, especially ones that only go up to 128 by 128 pixels, that makes it take much less time to paint. Okay, so the way this works is I duplicate just a bunch of these, and anybody can join any of the ones around me. I doubt anyone will join today, especially because it's quite early in the day. There's very few art jams going on. I tend to keep track of the number of them that are going when I stream there. I seem to stream when it's always at its slowest. But and maybe I'll stick some afternoon streams in when there's more people about, I suppose. But it's kind of a blessing for now to just kind of get to test things out and play around. Alright, so yeah, the way this works is we're painting on kind of a middle layer. There's a background that is a dark grey layer. In hindsight, maybe I should have just made the background dark grey, but I'm just testing this out for now. I'll make a better version of the file later. So yeah, I'm kind of painting in the middle. Okay. What should we start with today? I think I'm going to start with, I want to mainly kind of do from imagination today. I do have a little skull model next to me to use as reference if I so choose, but I want to start out with some kind of skull. Maybe just a black background with a, yeah, just with maybe a skull and a candle I was thinking, on a table. I don't know if that would be too small for me to go into too much detail, but maybe that's part of the point. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, oh, I'll have to get a timer working on the stream again. I'm not sure how to do that, but we'll figure it out. I'm just going to put a timer on my phone for now, for 5 minutes. And that means that all of the preliminaries that we do today, this is one of the most fun parts, all of the preliminaries that we do today will be like very high intensity painting. You know, 5 minutes per layer, you really, at that point, you're painting only the most important aspects, right? Okay, that's 5 minutes, and it's been started. And yeah, I'll get one that can show up on the screen at some point. So I want the table to have a tablecloth on it, and I probably want it to be pretty large in the composition, honestly. The shadow's a tiny bit warmer than the light. Kind of a Fresnel effect on the edges of the cloth, maybe. And then there's just some kind of random striations that we can turn into wrinkles later, or you know, something that looks a bit more like wrinkles. Remember to be zooming out as well. Okay. I think I might make the striations a bit more like a hammock shape, if that makes sense. Link it with the top of the table a bit more. Something more like that. So you can see this really does start off like pixel art, I suppose. Which is why I think it's one of the easiest ways to... Oh, this cloth is going all wrong. It's one of the easiest ways to to paint, especially when you're just starting out. I feel like this is probably a perfect exercise really for that. Let me just figure this out. Right, we've got 3 minutes. We spent 2 minutes painting the table, but the table is the biggest thing in the composition, so I think we can get away with it. We're just shaking the rust off today, so this is the first stream of the week, I think. Just getting some colours in for the skull, really. A bit of a darker orange too, or brown, whatever you want to call it. And then I was thinking more of a black candle. Maybe we should do like a dark blue. It's just a stick candle, really. Oh well, no, it's one of the wide. It's like a wider stick, I think. I suppose. And a bit of that light, I can literally use the same value as the light. Tiny bit of that's gonna go on the side of the skull, and that's especially the shadow side of the skull, which is should add some interest. We've still got 2.5 minutes, so we're doing pretty well for time. Just trying to do sort of, you just gotta, because there's so small pixels when you start out, you really have just got to do some noise for the face. I'm leaning the skull back against the table a little bit more here. Remember to keep zooming out. See, we got like a skull and a candle on the table there. Slowly starts to make sense. I guess the main light is coming from kind of the top left. It's more like a room ceiling light. I'm gonna bring the brightness of the tablecloth up basically, and that's the main light source that's gonna do that. I think the striations for these wrinkles, they should just be a bit steeper. So they're going all the way off camera there even. There's a lot of empty space above the skull and the candle. I don't know if I should move it up and make it a bigger composition. There you go, you see I've just made it a little bit steeper. Works a little bit better. I might have made the tablecloth a bit too yellow. Well, I mean, I almost definitely have. But I don't know. I do like it, but let's see what it's like with the proper value that it should be. Struggling with the how much to do that sort of shape on the tablecloth, you know what I mean? It's gonna drape inwards just a little bit, but I feel like I keep making it. Oh, well, I guess it's sorted. That's our alarm. That's 5 minutes. Okay, so what we do, and I feel like I might. What is it? It might be hard to. I don't know if people will understand this when they first join. It's a bit confusing. I tried to explain it in the description of the art jam, but what you're supposed to do is select the stage that you're at, copy and paste that, and then move it into the next template window. Make sure it lines up pixel for pixel, and it's double the size, by the way. And also in Magma it forces anti-aliasing, which is okay. Sometimes I prefer to not use anti-aliasing and to use what's called nearest neighbor instead, where it doubles in pixels but still looks like this, you know, it doesn't like make it blurry, basically keeps it pixelized. But it's okay that it does this, so you can work with this, and this does make it look better. I don't know. I think keeping it pixelated is better for learning, because it sort of just splits the tiles and doesn't affect what you've done. And you, when you have your finished work, you can see how much work each part of the piece has had on it as well, by the level of pixelation it has. So obviously things that you don't work into remain pixelated. So it can be really good to do nearest neighbour upscaling when you're just starting out, if you're using these to sort of learn to paint. Okay then. Maybe we should just do a bunch of still lifes from imagination today. I feel like we do on this channel. I do put a lot of pressure on myself to do concept art and, you know, new ideas and design and things that don't already exist, basically. But while still lifes are things that don't already exist, they're not, you know, like design work, at least. All you're really doing is laying out some stuff in your head and kind of thinking about the rendering in your mind and learning to generalize the light. I think still lifes are probably one of the best things to practice on if you want to get good at imaginative realism. Especially because you can start by working from reference and learn kind of what still lifes look like, and there's only, you know, there's a lot of staple items in still life, like skulls and candles, for example, and vases and such. So you can, you know, you can learn from. You could really learn to paint from imagination, I think, quite effectively if you pretty much just did this challenge and started by doing from reference of just different still lifes, maybe that you find on the internet, or maybe make an actual table to put a still life on and get a lamp sort of thing, and then transitioning to painting still lifes from imagination, creative realism way, and then you know, just branching out into things that don't already exist, or landscapes, or whatever floats your boat. So let's, excuse me, let's commence. Magma has this kind of pixel grid that I'm not sure if I should maybe turn off. Sometimes it's helpful. Okay, I should be painting zoomed out really anyway. Oh, I haven't started the timer. Right, the timer's started now. We're just making it look more skull-like, and there's just sort of a pattern in my head that I have from experience of what kind of works for a skull. You can see, because we've got a base, it was super easy to paint this skull in this base, right? And now, since we've upscaled, I don't really have to edit it that much to get it even closer to perfect. That's the beauty of upscale, is it really shows how to build a painting from a foundational level. That's why it's so great for painting from reference and from painting, you know, from imagination. I need to start thinking about, well, I need to start thinking about time really. So we've spent about 1 minute on the skull there. I need to start thinking about the shadow that's going to be behind the skull as well, actually. Might not go all the way back on the tablecloth though. Maybe just a thin line there. Not sure. Just gotta go by feel, I suppose. Put a shadow on the candle too. Yeah, so the light's kind of coming from that angle, hitting right there on the head. Okay, but what was I gonna say? Yeah, I'm thinking about contrast now, and thinking about building up the contrast in the shadows, particularly getting them nice and dark, because we've kind of got the lightest parts here, but I want to introduce some darkness here. and on the candle. So just a really dark blue, basically. Probably make the candle a bit less blurry as well, and make it more of a nice shape. And the top of the candle as well should be much more bright and brighter and saturated, and the flame shining through the wax, and just you know, just making it really bright and overexposed, especially on the top. Maybe not that bright. And if you do some striations going down too, you can make it look like there's drips on the candle. There you go. There's only so much of that we can do because it's pixelated. This looks a little bit like a painting out of one of the Minecraft painting sets, doesn't it? I'm sure there's one that is quite a bit like this, actually. Would make sense. I think the skull and candle arrangement is pretty common. And you notice that we didn't need to work on the table almost at all just then. I mean, it does need work, technically, but when you do these preliminaries, if something's not as important, like a table, you know, I really want to focus especially on the skull. Also, what I should show you is that you don't always get everything perfect first time, and that even in this pixelated format, you can use your digital tools to cheat. No, I'm kidding. There's no such thing as cheating art, but you can use your digital tools to change the composition a little bit early. So you can see we've got a bigger skull and candle now. We've got it pretty quick and easy, without too much pain. And that literally just means that now we'll get to put more detail into them. We'll get to do a nicer skull in the end, because we're going to upscale once more. So if I make the skull and candle nice and large, it's probably going to be a lot more fun to paint. I'll quickly put some brights in on the skull. It's really a game of trying to think about what you forgot. You know, like, what have I forgotten so far? To put some light on the skull, and that's the alarm going off. Okay, let me just do a tiny bit more. I'm just going to cheat on my own timer. Take a tiny bit longer than 5 minutes, 30 seconds longer. Right. So yeah, we've got what we've got so far, haven't we? We do indeed have a painting. Then we just replicate the step once more. Copy that and paste it, pixel for pixel. It's starting to get like a blister where this pen is on my finger. So it's come over months and months, the last few months of painting more often. I haven't even streamed in a little while, a week or so. Probably end up with like a callus there on my finger. Okay. Twice the pixels this is, by the way. Each one's double the size of the last. It goes 32, 64, 128. Quite interesting. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Quite interesting seeing the effect of the upscale, especially with anti-aliasing. If you use nearest neighbour, the default is for edges to be hard because they stay pixelated, but if you use anti-aliasing, the default is for everything to be soft, and so you have to work the hard edges back into it. And I do think that's superior, honestly, but not for learning. I think for learning nearest neighbour where it stays pixelated, I think that's a lot more ideal. Because like I say, you can see how much work has been put into each part of the image. If something's more pixelated, you can tell that you haven't painted over that as much, right? So the table would be more pixelated. Although now the table's basically going to be more blurry because it's had less work put on it and less sharp edges put on it. So you can still kind of tell with this one. I don't think so quite as much. This where you anti-alias as well, and it's all blurry, is good for wide aperture type shots, you know, so where something close to you or far away is blurry and something else is clear. So you just stop working on the thing that is blurry a little bit earlier and it automatically blurs it for you. It's great. Okay. Sorry, I'm just procrastinating. It's quite intense. It is quite intense. I'm in the wrong layer. I should lock these layers by default as well. I'll figure it out and I'll duplicate the other ones just in case someone does join. Yeah, I nearly painted in the wrong layer. That's the biggest risk doing this. You know, I'm gonna quickly add some edits to this one. I'm kind of figuring it out as I figuring it out as I go along. I wonder if I lock a layer on here, does it fully lock it? Like no one can get in the layer? I don't know. Be interesting if you could password lock layers or something like that on here. Okay then, 1 second. Like I say, I'm just making a template. For other people to use that hopefully doesn't end up distracting them. Oh, sorry, misleading. Letting people paint in the wrong layer and so on. Yeah, I figured that out. I think people will definitely, including me, will make that same mistake. Okay. Wow, that was weird then. It added some kind of blurred it in a strange way. Okay, right. 5 minutes, let's go. Oh, I'm in the wrong layer. I tried to make the mistake. Jeez. Yeah, I think when you rejoin it, it automatically puts you in the top one, doesn't it? Definitely lock them. You see, we're doing some silhouetting work here, especially because it's kind of made everything blurry. It brings a need for silhouette work. Resharpen at least the edges, you know. Silhouettes are just so important in painting. So they're definitely underrated, especially for concept art, which we do a lot of on here. It's hard to shade eyes on skulls, especially when you're going for a realistic look, because well, the shape of them is just very complex overall. But they're not a whole. They're not. They're you know, they really are like a sphere shape, if that makes sense, like an inverse sphere. And sometimes it can be quite hard to do the shading on them because they're such a kind of an extreme shape. But whatever direction you look from, you're getting quite extreme foreshortening as well on the walls and stuff. It's such a small area too. But you see, just like clay, as I always say, It's kind of the feel that we go for on here most often. Just like clay. You can see the image coming together quite nicely. Some of the candles flame, remember? I think more bright yellow, that should be. We shall also change the, you know, that's something I didn't do this time as well. It's probably quite dull. Can also play with the filters, of course. I think it's probably best to do that. It's probably best to avoid to do that, actually, I should say. I think this is too dark here. This jaw should be brighter. Something more like that. We've got just 1 minute 55 left. But to be fair, in this last little stage, this is when there's the least left to do, right? Most of the questions have been answered. I'm just going to try and introduce the colour white in this last minute and a half. Just going to use some of it to represent the candlelight on the skull, actually, even though I did say it should be more yellow. That's not subtle enough, really, for the candle shading, sadly. We've only got a tiny amount left of time, so let's see what we can do. 1 minute 12 we got right now. I can use the blur brush. I'll quickly come back with the blur brush for that. I want a bit of a highlight on the forehead and some of these areas on the eyes. Tip of the nose right there. This little top of the zygomatic on that side. Top of the cheekbone. We didn't do teeth, notice. Didn't do much detail on the teeth. And if we did, it would only have been a faint suggestion. Maybe we can fit the faint suggestion in here. Yep, we can. I'm going to try and introduce some black to right at the back of the eyes. So we're really trying to build the contrast up here, and that's what you're doing with these images. There's kind of an almost mathematical reason for that. Maybe I'll explain when we got 2 seconds. So yeah, I'll explain that now. Maybe let me just add one. Let me just make that a tiny bit darker right there. No, take it back. It's quite a creepy skull. Wow, that really was shaking the rust off for this morning. Oh my god. And there we go, we have a preliminary. Jeez, that last stage was hardcore. But we got there. Okay. Yeah, I was a bit harsh with some of the lights here. So you see this edge, I don't want it to be that sharp sort of thing. We're out of time now, so I'm just going to leave it as is. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, there's definitely a lot that I would work on. Man, 5 minutes is a tough time restraint, that is. That's the lowest I'd go for sure. And 32, 64, 128 is just perfect, always. I think. It's like just the right amount of pixels. 128 is just the right amount to tell the story. And not to go into detail. Can you rename these? I think you can. I'll just rename this to my own name. And then, I don't know how to do that. Oh, here we go. Well, I guess I can't for now. So there you go. We've got our skull painting. And these are really meant to be viewed, you know, quite zoomed out. 128 by 128 is pretty tiny compared to usual standards. I mean, it really is pixel art still, but making a distinction between pixel art and non-pixel art when what you're really doing is realism, it's kind of pointless, because I could then go, and I do sometimes go, from then 128 to 256, then from 256 to 512, and you know, you could go all the way up until it's not pixel art anymore. So it's like an emergent complexity type thing. It's an emergent thing. So I'm just going to move into the next one here. It's 10:37. Planning to go till about 12:30, so we've still got another 2 hours. Amazing. And you know, at some point, maybe when I've shaken the rust off a bit more and had a bit more practice, these only take 15 minutes each, so I could fit, well, 3 of them reasonably in an hour during stream. I managed to fit 1 in half an hour just then, so we can expect to do about 2 an hour. I think that was, yeah, 2 an hour. Okay. Now we've got to figure out what to paint. Was we going to do more still lifes? I don't know. Excuse me. What should we paint? I'm kind of thinking gold. I want to paint some metallic gold. I don't know why. I just always default to metallic and reflective and glossy surfaces. I just love them so much. I love material work lately so much. Could do another skull. I don't know. I wanted to paint just from imagination today, really. You see that? It's kind of compressed my image, which isn't, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's kind of annoying if it's doing that in an art jam, and when anyone wants to look at each other's artwork, you know, they're going to be greeted with that. This warped version of it. Not sure how to fix that. I assume it does it I assume it does it always, but maybe by making the canvases bigger or something. I don't know. What if I scale? If I scale it up, maybe, and go back out. Does it still do it then? No, it's not doing it now. But then again, it's just been painted on, so. Yeah, it's still doing it. I don't know. We just have to live with it for now until they update the system or something. Let me make sure I owned all the layers in the previous one. Yeah, if you ever join these, for anyone who might be watching in the future, I should just make a habit of saying, yeah, you should try to, maybe I should put it in the description. I should say you need to make sure you own all 3 of the layers in your project. I don't know how to make people own the thing overall. Oh, you know what I could do? Surely an admin can turn off create layers. Sorry, I just realised I tried to do the settings earlier, didn't I? And I couldn't find them. Just kind of got lost and forgot to do the admin one in the end. These comments are bugged out, I think. I've made some before that I couldn't delete. They all shift over different areas. I don't know if they've fixed it. Right, add remove layers. It's gonna be just, well, I guess just approve. Does that mean that they can remove someone else's layers though? don't know. Reorder layers to approved as well. And take over layers. Oh yeah, you don't want people to be able to do that. Okay. Right, sorry for that. I'm still learning, still figuring out the protocols here. And still procrastinating on thinking about what to paint next. We was thinking of some gold. Why don't we paint like a gold skull? I don't know. We could do a gold statue of a skull. Should we do that? Do we make it outdoors? What if we made it like kind of like a cathedral-y looking indoor area with a giant statue of a gold skull? I guess we can generate anything. I mean, this method of painting, it really is quite inspired by even how AI works, you know, because that was the thing that originally gave me the idea, because in AI, it asks you to pick, you know, like one of the 4 pictures. Not like this is supposed to be identical to AI, but it's exactly the same kind of optimization, right? It's easier for the AI to make the ones with the smaller pixel count and then to upscale it, so it's kind of the idea of this. And even the finished version of this is only in 128 by 128, so then once you've done a few of these, you then only pick the ones that you like to then take into full paintings, you know. These are just preliminaries. It's enough procrastinating now anyway. What are we going to paint? Or maybe we should go sci-fi and paint something in a lab. I don't know. I'm not really in the mood for still life anymore though. I'm gonna do a spaceman on the moon, something boring. Let's just do some boring stuff today, I suppose. Maybe I can do, I don't know, I always liked, there's this kind of aesthetic, isn't there, of like the spaceman on the moon, watching a CRT TV or some, you know, some strange stuff like Moon Man type of thing. I don't know if that aesthetic came from like the 80s. It's a bit like, what's it called? Vaporwave. Could do something vaporwavy with a spaceman. It's a very common design category. I want to do a spaceman and I want to focus on the footprints, I think. Okay, I think I've got the idea. And do spaceman, let's do it. On the moon, 5 minutes timer, it's just started. Surface of the moon is going to be warm, and obviously like almost white. It's going to be very light. A bit less saturated, that's a bit too yellow maybe. The spaceman is going to be... well, our camera's got to be really close to the floor. And then the horizon's going to be about, well, it's going to be the height of the camera, isn't it? Those are moon mountains in the background, by the way. I'm going to do space, which is just going to be black, because we're going for kind of more of like a photograph here, I think. He's got his back facing towards us, by the way. I'll put a backpack on him. Looking pretty good already. I didn't intend for him to be so large, but it's not a bad thing. I want to do kind of like a red strip, especially to show the shape of his backpack. quite grayscale, so I don't know how I'm going to introduce some colours and make it a bit more interesting. Yeah, we should have some rocks right close up to camera, especially if we're going to be trying to do footsteps. It's going to be 2 footsteps like that, I think. And this one's going to come really close to the camera. Just going to do some little dots, like some little pebbles and rocks and noise. It's another place where it would be good to have a kind of a noise brush. I want to tint the shadows a lot, quite heavily blue, and I feel like that can give us a bit more colour, you know. Every shadow on the left side will tint blue. I'll try and tint it quite blue. I've made a mistake here, and I've realised lately that I make this mistake all the time, by the way. And maybe this will make my colours better in future. Well, I suppose it certainly will. I always pick, whenever I'm shading something darker, I pick a darker value than I need. But when you do that, you suck the saturation out of the value that you can pick. It's much better to pick a value closer to what you're actually going for, and then you can make it as saturated as possible. You have the choice. You can see I've made it too saturated here. That only demonstrates, you know, how effective that sort of observation is. Yeah, so you see it's got a little bit more of a blue tint now. Let's introduce some darker values in just some select places. And on the moon, although we're going to switch back to mostly warm colours here. It's just going to be the suit that's mainly got that blue tinge to it. I think that'll look really cool. And of course we want to put Earth in the background. It's going to be blue. It's going to be a blue dot, I suppose. It's going to look like that? I think it looks a bit like that, I don't know. I want to make this moon mountain a bit more mountainous. Back here. And we was just talking about the blurriness aspect of this method with anti-aliasing and how it's so good for wide aperture. So yeah, we're going to go for wide aperture here, which means that Earth might be a bit blurry, and the mount isn't. I don't know, will Earth stay sharp? I'm not sure. Well, that was our time anyway. Yeah, how are we going to do the depth of field, I believe it's called? I wonder. I don't know, I was thinking of the spaceman being blurry originally, but my original idea was to have him further away, and I've ended up painting him much closer. I do want the footprints to be... I don't know, I'm thinking of it getting blurrier towards as it gets further away, and the Earth is going to be blurry then though. But I really wanted a sharp Earth. I don't know how to I don't know, would it make Earth blurry? I need to have a look at some photographs. For now, we'll just go ahead with it and do it from imagination, trial and error style. See what looks right, basically. I guess I mean, figuring out a lot of this stuff is basically just, if it looks off, you try the other idea that you had. Like I say, trial and error. Okay. So in the end, did it just no, see, that's still full detail, but then you have to double click something. So for people to see each other's artwork, they're gonna have to like enter the thing. So yeah, we're gonna reach about that level of detail. I'm just thinking about how that's gonna look with this spaceman. The spaceman's quite a bit larger than that skull. That skull's about that large. How much detail we got for him. But then again, that's a full body and not just like a circle shape like the skull is. I feel like people are so hard to paint and draw because they're just such a tall rectangle, you know. Sometimes it's just does make it naturally hard to fit composition. Excuse me. Okay then, we're ready for the next 5 minutes. Man, this is intense. Sorry, I was just moving the mic there, but I see might have made a lot of noise. Okay. Are we ready to go? Let's stop procrastinating. 5 minutes, let's go. Timer is started. Ah, I'm in the wrong layer. Excuse me. Just doing some silhouette work. I could also try, I don't know whether it, oh, didn't mean to do that. I don't know whether it is a good idea, I was saying, to try playing with the filters on some of these. I think I'll leave it out though. I think that's something to do afterwards. But we have got to remember that upping the contrast is a priority. So that's really what you're trying to do here a lot. Just trying to get the right colour here. Close enough to it. We haven't used the blur brush either, we didn't use it in the last one. Maybe we'll find an excuse to use it in this one. I feel like this leg should be, looks too small in some way. Already sculpting this guy. See, sometimes you can end up with strange images as well, I feel like. Because of the time restraints. You gotta think, if you take that time restraint off, then really get some good looking stuff, some nice preliminaries. Or, you know, just a bit longer, 10 minutes instead of 5 minutes. I'm gonna stick with 5 minutes today, I think, though, because I think it's really nice. I think what's wrong with this foot is it's almost like he's leaning backwards. I think that's what's wrong. Shall we try and make him lean forwards? Yeah, there you go. And this leg, it really should be like a bit of an upside down J shape, like that shape. That's like the side of his leg. It's a bit more of a walking stance. Although I don't know, it kind of looks like he's just crossing his arms and looking out. I did envision him walking, but I don't actually mind it just being of him stood there with his arms crossed, kind of looking out over the moon. It's not a bad idea for an image either. Yeah, I think that looks about right. Not sure what he's looking at. Just gonna do his shadow here as well. It's funny to think that we might not touch the earth again. I want to touch this mountain here. just in this layer, and I might not touch it on the next one then. Leave it blurry. I don't know if it really looks like the moon anymore. But it doesn't matter, it's just a composition idea, you know. These ideas, they change and shift as you're painting them, and it's part of the fun. It's part of the fun of painting from imagination, for sure. Things should get kind of more like choppy lines. Does that make sense? As they get further into the background. Because it's a shallower view that the camera's got of the stuff that's further away. Little tip for you. Especially literally doing the lines I just showed you, I mean that quite literally. You can see I'm just cutting those lines in kind of randomly in the distance. And you can see how much further away it is actually making the stuff look. It's got a nice middle ground there that looks really flat before you hit the mountains. They're quite blurry. Okay then, let's do our next stage. Exactly the same. You see, because these only take 15 minutes each, when we start doing some more concept art type preliminaries in here, it makes you pump out idea after idea after idea after idea. It's a really good way to I don't know if I did that right. It's a really good way to kind of to make preliminaries. I don't know what else to say. It's an amazing way to make preliminaries. You end up with dozens of them, which means that learning to paint with them and also doing concept art with them are going to be two really strong areas for this technique. Just 1 second, let me just see what this looks like. How do I reload a page on here? It crops it. So I'm just wondering what the thumbnail looks like, isn't it? Because probably usually the most important thing. I mean, it hasn't just cropped it, but it hasn't even... It's a very, very old image of that, isn't it? Yeah, we've got a skull there now, and all of them have different backgrounds. They're not the checkerboard background anymore. Oh, you can't see that. Sorry, it's just more admin stuff. Just like I say, I'm still figuring out exactly how to run this particular kind of art jam. I got the other ones mostly nailed down. I notice there's not a lot of multi-board art jams in general, so these will be kind of different too. A new kind of challenge. And it's still free draw, because you can still paint and draw whatever you like, for the most part. Alright, 5 minutes, let's go. It's been started. Let's get to work. I think I can make that a bit more saturated there. Trying not to over sharpen that. I should probably start with the sharp stuff. His arm just barely stretches further than his backpack here. That mountain in the background should remain blurry, I believe, and the earth should. And we're gonna get sharper as we get closer. So the astronaut's gonna be kind of a medium. Well, the astronaut's gonna be quite sharp. It's here that's gonna be kind of a medium on the ground. Right, we gotta think contrast. Think contrast. Some nice dark stuff. Some bright stuff. Let's try introducing the colour white. See what that looks like in the composition. Yeah, you see? That's how we know our composition's a bit darker than it really should be. Introduce bright white and that gives you the full scale reference. And you'll find that you might have been struggling with some details, like for me, this backpack, making it look separate from this arm. You might be making it a bit more difficult for yourself by not having the full range of values. So without the full range of values, you can't put the full range of details. Ah, man. Do it to myself every time I make my paintbrush into the colour selector. I don't think that backpack will be the only place with the orange line. It is for now, until I can figure out where else to stick it. I don't know how to make him look like he's got really big boots, because people are obviously going to look at the footsteps and then they're going to glance to the boot. So if the boot doesn't look cool, it's kind of not worth it, is it? Doesn't look quite right there. It's always hard to do where the legs connect to the torso, especially in something like a spacesuit like this. Maybe we should do a sharp line to show it's kind of like connected in two pieces. I don't know. You gotta keep these so simple. Simpler the better, really. And you keep introducing the white. Back here, maybe. Should try a more colourful image next, I feel like, as well. Can kind of make some of these look like craters now too. This can also help me to do these footprints. I want the edges of them to be very sharp. Let's make the recognisable footprint shape. We've only got 1 minute left right now, so this really is time to do the footprints. And inside the footprints, we're going to have the kind of space boot print, the lines going across. It's going to be hard to achieve that in 128 by 128, but you can suggest it. Okay, we've made them too high contrast, but I don't mind here because they're an important part of the image. Let's try and get some of these extra darks in. Now last seconds, 30 seconds. I guess we did just end up with the red stripe on the backpack in the end. Oh, that's that time. I'm just going to do that and make the foot look a bit more clear. But that's time. Oh, it's boiling up today. So there you go. We should have really, or if I had more time, what I would have done next possibly is just try to make some of this stuff in these areas sharper, because obviously, as I was saying, you know, it should get sharper towards the camera, but I don't know, maybe it should be blurry really close to the camera as well, and it's just the astronaut's kind of layer that is sharpest. But there you go, we've got a skull, we've got an astronaut, well, I'm just drawing in it, but we've got an astronaut standing on a moon and looking out over the horizon. If I zoom out really far, does it retain? I wonder. Nah. Yeah, there seems to be some kind of base level that it compresses everything to. Hasn't compressed the astronaut though. Interestingly, not yet anyway. It's nice. Nice what you can do with the blurriness factor when you paint like this. I guess because it makes everything in the middle, I should really, I guess, do something a bit more like that arrangement. I just cut off the top and bottom too. Actually, if I do something a bit like that. I don't want anyone's artwork getting cut off at the edge, but it's kind of hard to do that. See how it looks. I don't know, I don't get it. Just need to make sure there's enough of them for people to kind of just come and randomly join. Give me 1 second, I'm absolutely boiling. Just let me go and open some windows. Alright, we're back. Hey, we've got like a surprise heat wave here in the UK. Need to cut my grass later today as well. It grows so fast in the sun. Okay, we're in the right there. What are we going to paint? We've had a skull, we've had an astronaut. What should we do next? Does juice ideas out of you a little bit, to be fair though, doing this, because you're kind of coming up with so many preliminaries so quickly. If you're working from imagination, you're gonna get a lot of work done. But then, it really does. It uses the maximum amount of imagination you have. Could do like a space station maybe. I was doing spaceships on. Was it our last one or the one before? It was the one before. We did some of these spaceships last time. And I've done a little bit further work on that one even. I'll get that up. So the things that we've been doing in these art jams, I've started kind of importing them all into my personal work. That was me just testing out this actually. I should delete this stuff really because it's in the wrong place. But yeah, you see, we've been in these art jams creating the seeds for further concept art. And that's kind of the workflow that I'm starting to think about, is using art jams to come up with ideas. Like this one could have been an idea in this sort of art jam even, right? I don't know. Oh, this was actually like outgrown. This was a sticker, so this did start from an art jam, by the way. This was the original sticker, and it's fairly unchanged. I've changed the glass dome the most probably. But yeah, I just started from this and I grew outwards. And this is also a sticker, but it wasn't done in... This one was done in Crystal instead. And that's going to end up right there. You can see the placeholder for it. So we kind of are really starting to piece together, you know, full pieces of work from what we do in these art jams. They have like a very real outcome. I don't know if boring ones like this really do. These subjects are more just to... obviously the subjects that I actually do in my real artwork are more fantastical, or like what's it called? They're more sci-fi, futuristic, and or in this sort of you know, kind of very Dungeons and Dragons-y esque sort of stuff, skulls and things. I think I've been looking into lately making like you know, what kind of bigger projects we can do as well with these sorts of clumps of concept art. It's very nice workflow. It didn't really exist until this software. Or I don't know. I think you can do multi-boards like this on some Photoshop. I think I've seen, but it's not quite the same. Not like this. This is something else. This really is something else. I think this is the place where we were. Yep. So I've noticed when I enter one of these, it auto owns me on the first layers. Now we can do still life of some fruit this time instead. Or I could do a portrait. Portrait's kind of pushing it. It's kind of tough to do a portrait in 15 minutes, but it is. Whilst it is pushing it, it is also an ideal demonstration for this, because it really shows. It lets you progress the detail nicely. A face, doesn't it? So easy. Everyone knows how to do. Like, I guess we'll do one. Let's just do one and see how it goes. I think I've done this. I think one of my videos was actually literally me doing a face of a person in a park. So we'll do another one of them. Right then, I've started it. So yeah, this will be a perfect demo in that case. And the idea that the way that I was kind of pushing it, and I might do another YouTube video doing this exact same kind of thing. The way I was pushing it is not so much as a way to make preliminaries, but for a way for someone who wants to paint from imagination to start learning. So I could say, well, I shouldn't do that yet. Then I should say, remember when you was painting as kids with those really rubbish acrylic paints? You basically just want to paint literally to that level. So I'm thinking, you know, kind of pink for the face, and then just a dark brown for the hair. So you can see how easy it makes it. And this, I mean, while I'm explaining it and kind of stylizing it in that way, it's no different from what we was doing with this skull here, or even the spaceman. It's just painting in low detail. Like I say, you're sort of imagining that I'm going to make the neck just a little bit darker. So you add a little, you are adding a little bit more than maybe a chart would be in a child's painting, but not by much. Right. And then yeah, let's put her in the park. So she's got a green shirt. We can make that red instead. The original guy that I painted in this way had a red shirt, so let's go for it. Or maybe just make it pink. Yeah, quite pinkish. That looks nice. We're just doing a big block shape, and then we'll just add a little bit of shading onto it, basically. And then we're thinking of the green grass that's in the background. So we just literally just pick the colour green and put it in the background. I don't know where the horizon is going to be. It's probably about here, about eye level. I think the camera's maybe just a bit taller than her, just looking down a little bit. So the horizon's going to be around there. And then we can just do blue for blue sky. It is kind of crazy how simple the upscale method does make painting, because you can't, it forces you to not literally physically not be able, it should be much more red, the neck, I think, to not be able to go over detail, which is the biggest thing to overcome, is detail management when you first start out painting from imagination or from reference. But particularly with imagination, I think this is kind of fun to use, because it shows how you can paint from it. And a lot of people probably don't have like a kind of an understanding of the model of how you do paint from imagination in such a way, and manage the detail. And this really shows that that it is literally like, you know, starting with a child's painting and then kind of leveling up the detail by subdivision. I think a lot of people don't understand that, or don't expect it at least. I don't want it to have massive eyebrows. And I want just the front of the shirt to be a little bit darker. It really is a game of simplicity. Think about some highlights maybe on our shoulders. And I've already sort of done it on the hair, but even more highlightery. Maybe something to show where our hair divides even. And we can do highlights on the skin too. And it's still being held at the kind of level of detail of a child's painting, or maybe just somewhere tiny bit above what you can typically achieve with, like I say, those rubbish acrylic paints that they give you in school, primary school and such. You can barely really paint much with them. Oh, the grass hasn't got much detail yet, I've just realised. And I don't think we've got very long left either. How long have we got left? Yeah, 15 seconds, so I'm going to quickly detail the grass up in 15 seconds. And try and put a tree in too. A couple of trees even maybe. We're just going to do some random abstract stuff basically. Some tree trunks. Yeah, there you go. We managed to do it. 15 seconds to do the background, we managed to do it. Okay, that's our alarm. Okay then. So let's go up to the next scale. And no one can say that, you know, I don't think most people could say that that's difficult. Even the average person who's never painted or drawn before, you know, or doesn't anyway, or considers themselves to not be very good. I think even people with very low confidence would probably often tell you that they can do that fairly easily, right? I don't think, I mean, it is still a bit of a push, mind you. You are still rendering from your imagination. But that's, you know, that level of kind of pixel art I think is a lot less intimidating, to say the least. That's why it's such a good thing for new people as well, I think. Just makes the whole process a lot less intimidating. Okay then, we're on level 2. We're going to do 5 minutes again. And that timer is now started. Maybe make her jaw a bit softer. Sharpen the shadow at the bottom of her nose. We've got the detail to hint at the eyebrows a little bit more here, and maybe even the eyes. Possibly even some nostrils, and of course we can add the mouth. More darkness under the eyes there. And darken the neck. And again, we're still thinking of adding more contrast too. This is super simple. Just a little painting of a face in a park. Simple as it can get, really. Not too many values either. Easy composition. This is the sort of thing I recommend starting with from imagination. I don't know. It's tough for me to recommend because it's a portrait at the end of the day, and that's a pretty difficult subject inherently, but I do think it's part of the demonstration, you know, to show that you can paint something complex and even unfamiliar from imagination much easier and more effectively with this technique than starting with the full amount of pixels. And this gives you a market advantage, and going to the, you know, one of the most complicated things, kind of maybe show that to people a bit quicker. And I think when you paint like this, I think, you know, anyone can get good quality, right? It's easier to get a professional sort of quality and look. I don't think there's anyone who would really, you know, there's not much, what am I trying to say? There's not going to be much difference from someone who's painted for 10 years and somebody who's painted for 10 weeks, who both does this exercise, because there's a cap, right? Anyone can do just as well as anyone else. Very steep learning curve, I suppose. Steep and easy. And it's nice that you don't have to work everything out. Like, I think, especially with a lot of the, you know, most people start out in line and you have to do every detail to start with. And I think it's so liberating and much easier, to say the least. The fact that you don't have to detail everything in the background here. I've gotten away with just doing a random abstract pattern. Just suggestion, basically. You can get away with suggestion here. You seldom can do that so easily in line, and you obviously can't do it quite. You can still do it, but not as easily when you're painting in higher pixel counts. Still got 22 seconds left, so this middle stage felt like we've had plenty of time. Sometimes it feels like you're really rushing, sometimes it feels like you've almost got slightly too much time, even with 5 minutes. Yeah, maybe sometimes we'll do some 10-minute preliminaries instead. 10, 10, 10, so there'll be half an hour spent on the preliminary. That's that time, of course. Right then, we're going to do the same thing, repeat the next stage. You can move the selection when you get it wrong a little bit, by the way. That's what makes this kind of harder to do as you scale it up, at least in Magma. You can overcome that by changing the layers. Sometimes it's hard to, you know, when you're really large, trying to get pixel perfect selection with that square selection tool. Still working through the workflow and the workaround. You can see how much detail gets added. Crazy amount. It's double. Well, it's quadruple, sorry. It's quadruple the detail, not double. Because it's 2 axes. So it's quadruple the pixel count here. Now that every time you upscale it, you end up with 4 times more pixels. So that's why pixels are so nice. It's because you have an actual literal measurement when you work with pixels. I suppose you also kind of have that if you did traditional, but you can't enlarge a traditional painting, right? Not very easily anyway. You can scan it and print it again or something like that. Look at the difference there. There's diminishing returns built into this, by the way, as well. I don't know if I can illustrate that on the other ones, but the jump from here to here, if you can see my cursor, the jump from number 2 to number 3 is much, well, it's not that much, but it's a smaller jump in change to the composition as between, you know, 1 and 2. There's where all of the big changes happen between 1 and 2. And then number 3, you can see that as a refining. So you see, we're not starting from too bad of a base here. We're just going to refine the edges and sharpen them and such. Okay, let's go. 5 minutes. Can even do some hair strands, maybe, just an experiment, but let's try it. One thing that, one drawback of painting like this, though, for me at least, I don't know if it would be this way for everyone, is you paint things larger than they should be. Just because when it's in a small amount of pixels, you try to put the detail in there and get it represented, but what happens is some things are so small that you wouldn't have saw them, you know, in the first 32 by 32 level. So adding them in retroactive, so adding them in that early makes them a bit too large, and you see the hair's a bit too large here, and we've had to scale it down a few times, which is something I do even when I'm not upscaling, so it just makes it doubly worse here. But you can paint some things too large, basically, is all I'm saying. In this case, her hair ended up too large because I wanted it to be a big part of the composition there than it really should have been. We're going to follow that line thing again, where everything turns into to thin lines as we go into the background. But there's also like stuff, you know, and little mountains and hills and things here, so it's a bit more complicated. Probably just shouldn't spend too much time on the background, especially at the start of the painting. That's kind of the thing we want to not have enough time for if we don't have enough time for something. Not the face. You don't want to run out of time by the time you reach the face. I don't mind about running out of time when I reach the background so much. Just put some more into the hair. I think it'll look nice, right? Why not? Okay. Time to get down to business. I'm going to have a look into her right, our left. Get those eyebrows in now. We've got the pixels. Nostrils, not that big. Lips, should be more red. More redness there, I think. Softer red, more pink. Could also do with making her head just a little bit less tall. Not that it shouldn't be tall, but yeah, everyone's an individual. I think typically, her head is a bit tall compared to the typical average head, which is okay. You can have some variance. It's what makes things unique. It's what makes things unique. So. This kind of shows you the level of preliminary that you'll get out of it as well. You can see that spending, I mean obviously I could have spent longer, but you can see what spending 5 minutes gets you quite easily. A face is a good reference for judging the time. The amount of judging how big of a painting you can make for the time. Just doing more shade on that outright side of the face. Got about 1 minute left. So you can start to think about lighting just a little bit more as you get through. So it's like a nice difficulty scaler. Let's think about contrast a bit more. I feel like we've kind of forgotten. I don't know what I don't think there's a black pixel on the page yet, and I don't think there's a white one either. Apart from maybe the highlight, like on the forehead, that looks pretty bright. I feel like the cheeks I made a bit too bright as well, right off the gate. There you go, it's just starting to come to life. Just going to brighten up the inside of her eyes to make them look a little bit more open. There you go. That is the portrait we were able to paint in 15 minutes time. Lovely jubbly. So yeah, you can see kind of what's achievable in 15 minutes, which isn't much, to be honest. I think you need a lot longer than 15 minutes to paint a face. But it is doable, right? You can get the whole thing filled in. You can't get the whole thing detailed, and you can't get the issues worked out, but you can get the whole thing filled in and get, you know, a preliminary. And you can always up the time. You can do 7 minutes or 10 minutes instead, whatever you want. Nice one. Maybe I can. Maybe I should try use like a random word generator to come up with some ideas as well. Especially if we're going to be paying for imagination. I still need to figure out how to get reference on here. I don't know if I'll have like a central reference, and people also painting along with us can join the art jam and paint from the reference that's in here. Just set this one up. I'm not sure what we should paint. Maybe we should. We've been painting some less outlandish subjects, so let's try maybe going a bit more into the sci-fi area. I don't know, I really feeling like painting a spaceship for some reason. I'm not sure why. I think we should give it a go. Or maybe some kind of outer space settlement. Should try some moon settlement or something like that. We've done a spaceman. Can stay in the kind of space vibe. Yeah, let's expand on the spaceman, and let's do a spaceman in front of a moon settlement, or maybe a Mars settlement. Seems to be in vogue right now. So obviously there's going to be a lot of orange for Mars. Right then, that's the 5-minute timer started. Okay, so we just want, it's a bit dark, so we're going to brighten that up. I'm going to try and keep the value in there because it's a nice value for the shadows. And we really just think that the only important detail when you're doing this very first bit is just where the horizon is, of course. We want some things really far in the background. Like I say, we want a space settlement here. I'm just going to do, I guess the atmosphere, I guess there's not going to be much of an atmosphere on Mars, so I want the settlement built into this mountain in the background, you see. It's going to be a couple of like glass domes. So we're just going to make kind of the look of it. It kind of is the star of the show here, so we're going to paint it even before the spaceman, I think, even. Should we do an element of it that's quite close as well, maybe? Quite large. Maybe have us be quite zoomed out even. So the spaceman, he might only be a little blip here, right? See how we've kind of got a layered, tiered thing going on here. It's just a couple like glass domes. I think that's quite a cliche for these space settlement type images that you see in movies and such. It's easy to do something like a glass dome here because we're just going to do basically a bright spot in the top left. And that's the what's his name? That's pin light. That main reflection from the sun. It's also going to tell us where all the shadows are, really. It's going to bake that in for us. I want to do kind of corridors between them, but I don't think I can work that in this level of detail quite yet. That'll have to be the next one when we upscale. I'm going to put some more darkness in the glass domes. I think that'll make them look a bit more reflective, or a bit more metallic, to speak literally. Got about 2 minutes 43 left. 15 minutes is definitely the shortest timer that I would recommend for doing any kind of preliminary. 15 minutes is a really tight amount of time to pack a painting into. You can't get much quality really with 15 minutes, but that's the whole point. We're just coming up with ideas and figuring out what general composition those are going to have. I don't know if I should do something more interesting in the background, kind of something to kind of finish, something for your eye to kind of land on at the end. Should we do a planet with a disc in the sky? Yeah, this technique really shows how you can just paint anything from imagination. Slowly build up the detail, right? Because you can just, especially in this first stage, when you're just figuring out the composition over as a whole, you can really do anything. I'm trying to put the same shading, by the way, notice, on this planet as is on the glass spheres. It's all consistent. And unlike the glass spheres, the planet, really, a lot of the time, you'll render it like that. If you're being super realistic, because there's no other light to be lighting up the right hand side of that planet there. I don't know whether I should also have some kind of main building here, people's eyes to focus on, but I think I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to leave that one out. I think the planet's enough, although I might make the planet a little bit smaller. A bit more space between its ring and itself there as well, at that size. More like that. Oh, I've ruined that. It was way better before. It's just too large. I'll tell you what, when we get onto the next layer, we'll just shrink it down a little bit, Photoshop style. Got 30 seconds left. I'm just going to spatter some stars and maybe some... you should be able to see the nebula a lot easier here. Let's say it's a prolonged exposure. Going to be some little stars here and there. It's not going to be that visible here though, obviously, because we're on you might not be able to see that on the stream actually, because it's so subtle, but yeah, I'm doing kind of very subtle clouds of different colours for nebula in the background there. Okay then, that's stage 1. Let's move up into stage 2. Same step as always, we're going to select it. It doesn't really matter if, to be fair, you don't have to get like a perfect square selection. If I hide this layer, you can see that my actual painting, because I'm painting in between layers,
it's not perfectly square in itself, and that's why I kind of like to grab it and make it perfectly square, but you don't have to do that. So that can cut a step out and make it a bit easier if you just generally select everything. I feel like it makes it easier to line up when you move it to the next level. So I know now, because I've selected it in a perfect square, actually that's probably why I should keep doing it. I know that I can make it perfectly double the size, because the edges aren't all rough and hard to tell where the original frame was. I think that's why I've ended up doing this. You can see how much more detail we have available now. Maybe I should keep that planet the same size. It does look quite cool. I think it should be fainter, but I'm not sure because there's not an atmosphere in space, so I don't know. Alright, we're on the right layer already, so I don't see there should be any further ado. Let's start. 5 minutes. 5-minute timer. Let's go in again. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to introduce some white into these domes and really accentuate the reflective spot that's on each of them. The pin light. I'm going to make the astronaut a taller shape, but he still does need a shadow. Excuse me, still learning to mute the mic as I'm sneezing. Okay then. We're going to make the bases of these a little bit darker as well. This is where they sort of meet the land. Where things are kind of touch each other, like the bases of things. It's always just darker, isn't it? Just a general rule. So much generalization in painting from imagination. The more of it you do, the easier you'll find the paintings to do. And I want an interesting texture on these domes. I'm not sure quite how to suggest it yet, but I think it's going to be mainly around the... It's going to be like a noisiness of the highlight is what you're going to see. That's what you often see when there's an interesting texture. And I want these to be kind of like bumpy. I guess they would be kind of like covered in tiny little hexagonal bumps in my mind. But that's obviously very difficult to suggest just yet with this amount of pixels. It might be easier to do it in the next one. So I'm just going to add the noise here to hint it. And then when we go to the next stage, we've got a bit of a foundation there. So that's where suggestion really gets leveraged in this technique. I'm going to sharpen the tops of the dome so you can see that they are definitely round. So we just select the background basically, and it's just silhouette work. Making the silhouette sharper. So one of the main ways we add detail. It does also make everything slightly smaller, which it can be a good thing here, because like I said earlier when we was painting the face, I think it was, you can often paint things like, for example, the hair, which you can see is actually going out of the canvas even on the first one. You can paint things too big by accident in this method. It's one of the slight drawbacks of it. Gotta sort of watch out for. Right, we're going to introduce some more darks. We're going to make sure each one's got cast shadow as well. So just a darker shape, basically, sticking out to the left of them. I don't know whether this one's going to be kind of covered. Yeah. By a rock that's close by. Should we try and make the planet a bit more faint? You can do it with the shadows. And I'm just going to airbrush over it entirely. Maybe. Nah, it's not a good idea. We'll leave it like that. It looks good like that. Maybe put a little bit of highlight, just the same value from the planet on the disc. I don't know how to get the ring to look like it's really got some space between itself and the planet. Can add some noise to the planet as well to make it look a bit more interesting. And you see that texture on that dome, how it's kind of just like a sprinkly, glittery texture when we zoom out. And like I say, that's the suggestion, that's the noise that we'll use in the next layer. And what you could do, we won't have time to do this because it's just a 15-minute preliminary, but when we do the final piece, or if you was upscaling further and spending more time, you could turn all of them into any texture. You know, like I say, like you could make this noise as it gets larger and more pixels. You could slowly turn them into a uniform hexagonal shape. You know, loads of little hexagons on it, or loads of little bumps. You can make it really mathematical and kind of like geometric. And you can do that easier than you'd think without using guides and such. It'd be a little bit warped, but you know. Or you can do more organic textures, so I could do like a swirly pattern on the glass. You can turn the noise into anything. And that is a technique. I wasted my last 30 seconds speaking, but with that's a technique that you can use in, excuse me. It's just suggestion, right? It's just suggestion. This kind of method, one of the good side effects of it is it teaches you suggestion in that way. So like I say, that's something that you can use in your full-size paintings that you don't start off more pixelated. And even in oil paintings, it's a big technique, you know. Even in a lot of traditional paintings, like I say, big technique. It is just called suggestion. It's just getting the hint of something there first, and then, you know, as you make things more detailed, you don't necessarily do this, but as you make things more detailed, you make things less suggestion and more factual. Especially when painted from imagination. So many of these, so many of what this technique teaches you, you know, really can be applied in so many areas. Like I say, you can apply the stuff that this technique teaches you in traditional art or in you know, high detail digital art, from reference and from imagination. That's why it's the thing that I most recommend to learn. I think this is probably the fastest way you could learn painting. I'm going to make some of these maybe different shapes and maybe even start to... Oh, we haven't even started 5 minutes, sorry. I stole a bit of time there. But yeah, maybe we should do some of the corridors between these, because I kind of wanted them to be a bit like a web. See what I mean? It's a bit like a modular moon base. We're going to do the dark parts of those connecting corridors too. This one's got like a little garage on it. I've made it a unique shape. Maybe we'll put a bump on this side too. We could have them be a bit like clouds shapes more than perfect domes. So I'm going to do that. Anything to add to make things a little bit more different, you know, will make your preliminary makes, you know, more unique and give it more of a purpose. Because what these really are is idea building. So the more you try and put, you know, out ideas that you haven't thought of before, and you know, try new techniques and new looks and new styles in these, the more rich your final artwork is going to be that is built off of these preliminaries, right? The more original your ideas are going to be, is what I'm trying to say. That's why these are good to do in very short amounts of time. Like I say, 15 minutes is not really enough time to paint a Martian space base with a planet in the background and a spaceman here, but doing it in this controlled way gives us a preliminary for which we can use to make a larger painting. And when you only take 15 minutes to make each one of these preliminaries, you know, well, theoretically in 2 hours you could make 4 paintings, or in 1 hour you can make 4 paintings. In fact, that was something of a format that I was considering before, was 4 paintings per hour, and I could just do like a 1 hour short stream. At one point I was thinking of doing that. Then you get 4 paintings done. I think it makes it more interesting to watch too, because you can see what am I thinking? You can see the results faster, obviously, and I think people watching a stream probably probably like to be able to see the painting go from start to finish in just 15 minutes. Bit of a USP there. I'm going to add some more detail here, although we're still going to keep it flat because the camera's still quite far away even from this piece of ground here. Really helps you to work in the abstract, this does too. Like I say, suggestion in abstract trains you well, this does. We want to make the top of this layer quite bright to show that it's really in the foreground, and that everything back here is much further away. There's like a trench, isn't there? We're kind of, our spaceman is standing on the edge of a cliff or a hill is what we're trying to suggest. So to do that, you want to make the things that are closer, you know, much more detailed than the background stuff that's back here. Maybe even change the blurriness of them too, so a bit of an aperture lens. You're always thinking about, you do it, you when you paint like from imagination, you are a cameraman as well, you are. And I mean that literally, you are thinking about the lens that the camera has on it. You're thinking about the exposure time. You know, a more prolonged exposure is going to catch more of these stars, by the way. That's how people take shots of space through cameras and through telescopes and make them look so bright and so detailed. It's because, okay, I don't think you're going to be seeing individual dots like that. But you get what I mean. You know, you're thinking about the actual camera settings and the way the camera is actually literally processing the light when you paint from imagination. And I suppose when you paint, so it's only when you paint from life that you're not really thinking about kind of a camera, more of a camera lens. If you have two eyes, then it's more of a representation of what you're seeing. I don't know. I talk a lot of, I mumble a lot of gibberish and a lot of rubbish on here. It's really, it's like taking notes, I suppose. It's good to build your own mental model and your own understanding of how things work, especially something even like painting or any kind of knowledge. It's good to think and to put together sentences that will show you where you might have internal contradictions and where if you speak more about your opinion, or you take notes more about your own opinion on something, or your own understanding on it if it's non-opinionative, I feel like you build a more sturdy mental model of that. So this is that's it, we're finished. So these streams are a bit of an excuse for me to kind of talk to myself and build my own mental model of how painting works. And what are the best ways to think about it? What's the most coherent model or collection of models to use when painting? We didn't add much more detail to the planet. We kind of just left it blurry, but like I say, these preliminaries are very hierarchical in their focus. Excuse me. So quite literally, the things that have less work done on them will be blurrier or more pixelated, depending on how you upscale in between each stage. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Let me get back to where we was. Yeah, I was just kind of standing back and looking at the four of them. So far we've managed to do 4 paintings in 2 hours. About 2 paintings an hour, and I think that's going to be what we do. It's 15 minutes of wasted time basically, and 15 minutes of time spent painting per painting. So in a 3-hour stream we can get 6 preliminaries, and then we maybe pick 1 or 2 of those preliminaries will be selected to be turned into full detail paintings, same that we do for the stickers. So you can see some of those full detail paintings on the stream in the top left. In fact, that top left one was an upscale painting that we kept upscaling until it was full detail, that stone mask one. What am I looking for here? Painting projects 2026. Yeah, so we can start doing more full detail paintings like this one. Although this one was from a sticker. I don't know if I can find for the stream an example of one that is full detail and painted but was started from a preliminary. I'm sure they exist. Sure, I've done some, but I've lost the preliminaries that I've done. I'm not sure which ones were done that way though. say, I've been painting for so long, and I think it's been the opposite of diminishing returns. It's been like the longer I've painted, the longer I've done this, the more rapidly the new techniques and ideas that I've been coming up with and implementing into my work. So it's like, it almost sometimes feels like, one, I don't end up finishing a lot of projects because I've always moved on to some new, more, more sophisticated technique, and now that painting has been left in the dust. It's more, it's an older method that I was using, so I don't end up finishing it. And also, feels like sometimes it's hard to get examples of the finished idea that I have currently because it's changing constantly, so I don't get to get many finished examples, but I think now that we're kind of streaming more and we're doing things more in bulk, this is really in bulk, I think we're going to start to see things finished a lot more often. Although, speaking of, I do need to figure out a time or some method of how to do art jams for finishing work, finishing stickers and for finishing compositions. I think a multi-board is obvious, so I'll figure out how to do it that way. But yeah, finished paintings like this, or finishing paintings like this, it takes hours and hours and hours over multiple days or weeks. Like maybe 15 hours or something, 15 to 30 hours maybe. So doing those in art jams, it's going to be tough because an art jam is really like a one-day thing, and people join and paint for a little bit and then leave. So I don't know whether I'm going to do multiple art jams where I'm working on the same painting and I just copy and paste it the next day, or if I'm going to try and keep one art jam open for like a week while I'm painting something. And then everyone else as well is painting their thing, so they've got like a week to work on theirs. And I guess it expands, I don't know, I guess it's infinite. I don't know how many people can join. Could be really interesting, that could. A big cloud, you can imagine a big cloud of all people's paintings, all their different work, especially when you think about, doing art jams, these multi-board art jams where everyone's doing a finished painting. Have a complete cloud like this of just loads of finished paintings from different artists, and everyone working together, can go and give opinions and advice on each other's artwork as they're painting. I really think this kind of communal online painting is the way forwards, honestly. Right then, I'm going to duplicate a couple of these. I want to keep having some spare just in case someone else joins. And obviously I'm going to finish up at some point. I'm not sure how long we've got left. We've got about half an hour left. So we can do one more basically. But I want to make sure there's a bunch of spares for other people to paint on. I wish I could lock. Can I lock? I wish I could lock these, because I feel like I'm going to leave and someone's just going to control me, but so be it. I don't know how to... I've made it so people can't make layers and make new layers, so actually I think that means that anyone who joins one of these can't edit it. They can't overtake the layer that I was a part of. I really like how this space base turned out, by the way. I don't think we really analysed it, but I think it turned out really nice. And I think the sense of scale is just there. See how low detail our spaceman ended up being as well. It looks right when you zoom out, so that's meets the criteria. It's a nice little composition. I don't know if it's unique enough that I would spend the time to make it into a full painting. I could use it as inspiration for a full painting that has something more unique in it. And that's why I say, I'll maybe do 1 out of every 4 or 5, maybe even less than that. It will only be a few of these preliminaries that really catch my attention enough and that I feel are interesting enough and unique enough to turn into a full painting. It's only the good ones is what I'm trying to say. I'm going to cherry pick just the good ones. Just the good preliminaries to be turned into full paintings. It's just, let me just make even more of them. 1 second. That's nice and even. Right, I'm going to do our last one here and make it look uneven again. Make sure to own all 3 layers. I'm going to have to put that in the description. People don't have someone else come in and kind of change the borders on their painting. Okay, what are we going to paint last? Last painting of the day. Or maybe we'll fit 2 more in. I'm not sure. I think. No, we've done a still life. What have we done so far? We've done a still life. We've done 2 space images. I guess I could do just another space image if we're in a space mood today. This is kind of like retro space as well, or like truly retro space, not retro futurism, but you know, these are quite 80s looking images maybe. I don't know. I think that's where we're sort of stuck today, timescale wise. Yeah, so what can be our last idea? Go on, let's do something really hyper futuristic. Let's do a spaceship. Let's do it. Spaceship would be easy as well because it's a small. Well, it's kind of like a sticker because it's just going to be a black background with a small item in the middle, right? It's not really a full composition in the strictest sense. It's more like a product design-esque type thing. Okay then, 5 minutes. Let's go. Obviously, the first step here is going to be to paint the background black. It's completely dark. I want to do a blue spaceship. I want to do a spaceship that's heading away from us. I want to do a big oval booster right here that's kind of in a ring shape. Maybe there's 2 boosters below it as well. That could look quite cool. I like the kind of clustery design for spaceships sometimes. And then here it's going to be the cockpit. Not going to need much time for this first layer. Maybe I should just up the interest and add something else too. Let's have the spaceship at the bottom. And then let's do, I don't know what colour to make it. Maybe like a turquoise. It's hard trying to keep the colours unique sometimes because I just wish there was more colours on the colour wheel, you know. Let's do some giant, I want to do a space station that it's heading towards. But I don't know what the space station is going to look like yet. Maybe lots of kind of, what's it called? Dodecahedron? Maybe it's going to be a cluster of, similar to, maybe we're going to make it similar to this one where it's sort of a cluster of, I don't want to go with spheres this time. I want to go with something where it's like, I think it is called like a dodecahedron, like kind of hexagonal or pentagonal plates making it up. So it's like almost like a little settlement in space. I'm going to try and do some sharp spikes, spiky shapes pointing out of it. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but we'll figure it out. Or should it be a station that's orbiting a planet? You know what, I'm going to go with something that's a bit less organic. Let's go with kind of a triangle formation here for the space station, and then let's have it orbiting planet that's down here. Just thinking of the best way the planet should cut past the ship there. Yeah, so the planet's massive basically. Give it like a bit of a corona. I think that's called a corona. Like the atmosphere being lit up by the sun. I'm going to do the so-called dark side of these shapes here. But you might not be able to see that on the stream depending on what you're watching this on. A lot of these paintings have some very subtle values in the darks. I don't know if it should stay black on the inside of the booster there, but I think it's nice contrast that way, so let's keep it. We've got 2 minutes left. So we use 3 out of 5. And then darker and bluer for the hull where it's not facing the sun. Although we can't really see the side of it that's not facing the sun very well, so it's more just where the details are and the occlusion shadows. Should I put a big fin on it? Would that look cool? Yeah, go on then. And the fin can maybe have like a stabilizer on it. Something like that. I don't know. Maybe the shape can actually bend upwards into the fin a little bit, like this. Probably quite hard to see if that's part of the thing is I think might make this even more interesting to watch is when I'm in this early stage, it's hard to it's probably hard for other people to kind of decode what the image is going to be until it gets larger. It's hard for me to decode because, like I say, I work on selection. I work by saying, you know, it kind of looks like this, so I'll accentuate how much it does, and that's the logic always for me, really. Creating new things and also exaggerating the good parts of old things, and, you know, vice versa, eliminating the bad parts of old things too. Okay, make sure that's consistent blue around the booster there, and the booster should have a little bit of corona of its own. I don't know how to, it might be very subtle, to be fair, but, you know, it's kind of like blowing out a bright colour. It's like a ion thruster type thing. Just going to put a bright spot on some of these parts of the station. Right, that's the alarm. Same step as always, we're going to select this, enlarge it, and start again. So I went 1 pixel too high there by accident, but what I can do sometimes is just then move the selection down a bit. Hope other people can figure out to do this. I tried to make it short, but to give people as much kind of a clue of how to do it as possible. I just said to enlarge it, basically. So I don't know if people end up selecting a square. It's not really that important, but it helps you to make it perfectly 2 times larger, basically. Helps to keep consistency. Okay then, let's give it a go. It probably also helps with readability, like without me even painting into it when I enlarge it. It's probably easier for the audience to read what the image is of, you know, to see, oh, that's a picture of a person when you enlarge it like this, even without having done any work on it, which is interesting. Just blurring it, basically. Right, 5 minutes. So each of these are going to be connected. It's going to be like a kind of triangular space station type thing. I'm going to try and sneak some pure white into the image just to see if we're ready for that yet. Right here on the... This is like a screen, like a black cockpit screen, so that's why it's so bright. There's also a Fresnel effect on the ship itself. The edge of the ship's going to be brighter, is what that means. Also, generally, the kind of the left side of the ship's going to be brighter because that's where the light source is here. This is there's a lot of foreshortening. A lot of foreshortening here. Because the ship is kind of flying away from us. It's a very unusual angle, so it's nice to get some sort of practice doing that. I don't often paint a spaceship that's flying away. I suppose, I mean, you can paint infinite things, so I don't often paint most things. You know what I mean? Okay. Which is why I love painting from imagination, because like I say, there's infinite possibilities and every painting can be, you know, so unique. Especially if you go into the realms of imaginary things and sci-fi and such. You know, we started off with real subjects, and we've done 2 real subjects today. We've done this skull, which has kind of been compressed, but we've done that skull, and this one was a real subject too, something that exists in the real world. I suppose you can say this one was as well, actually. But you know, it gets more and more outlandish. This one doesn't quite exist, right? And this really doesn't. It's the more and more like design you use that doesn't exist in real life, it's the more and more sci-fi it gets, I suppose. I like how that space station looks in the background. I'm glad I went with the kind of 3 things stuck together look. I feel like the cockpit needs redoing. Yeah, let me just work on the base shape of this spaceship, and then I'll put the cockpit on. Maybe I should just do like a shallow, low profile cockpit like that. Oh, that looks so cool, yeah. Let me go with that. I'm not sure quite how the light's going to reflect on this one. There might just be one bright spot there. And I think on the nose here of the ship it's going to be bright too, so it'll kind of merge into that, which is not really fortunate because it makes it harder to read. It's going to be like that, I think. So it's probably becoming more readable, this image is, as we go along as well. Well, it definitely will be. Part of this technique, it gets more and more readable as it goes. So I think when you're, what I was trying to say earlier, when you're on these early stages, it's just an image for you alone only, right? No one else can read it, but if you're the one who paints the image, you know, I knew kind of roughly what that was representing, but someone who is showing this image with no priming at all might not, it might just look like a completely, I think it would even just look like completely random abstract shapes that no one can read. Only I could read this at this point. But it's becoming slowly something that not only I have the luxury to read, I'm slowly delivering that luxury to the audience as it becomes more and more detailed. People see what I'm talking about more and more, so to speak. Okay. It's just some dark spots on this planet because we didn't prioritize it time-wise, and it's not really going to be. It's just going to be abstract shapes. The planet is only 5 minutes on each stage, remember. So timekeeping is paramount, and detail management is paramount, which is why this is so good for doing 15 minutes paintings, because it forces you to give to work at lower levels of detail when you're at the start of the painting, and then allows you to work at higher levels of detail. Slowly, you know, trickles it in as you get through the painting. Right, that's the time. Okay then, scale it up and on to the next one. This is a bit of a difficult one, especially because of I'm trying to get a nice reflection here on the ship, kind of a line going that way. But I feel like every time I do at the moment, it's kind of killing the readability. So let's see what we're able to do with a few more pixels, eh? Yeah, you want readability and then you want believability. Kind of my own rules, especially for imaginative work. Try and make it readable first, relatable. Make it so when someone looks at it, they go, oh, that's a picture of a spaceship with a planet in the background and a space station there. And then make it look believable, so, you know, start to work on those details and make it look realistic, basically. Anything that adding more details and working on the composition does. And that's why you get, like, kind of the diminishing returns as well. Right then, here we go. 5 minutes, let's start. Final stage, spaceship, space station, space planet. Let's do it. I want kind of vents here, I'm thinking. Just not sure how to suggest them yet. There's not going to be enough pixels to fully design the vents, but I'd like to suggest them if we can. It's just some ridges should be enough. That will help me line this window up as well and see how the shape's really going to be. It's a really wide window, isn't it? I think I wanted it to be more like an arrow shape though, so. It's going to be a bit more like that. Make sure to get a glint on the windscreen right there, maybe. I want it to look a little bit like it's kind of bulging out from the ship's bodywork. And just use a bit of black for these vents here too. Well, I don't know if they look like vents, but it's just details. You add random abstract details and And then you can turn it into something later. It might be turned into vents, it might be turned into just a ridge shape on the ship. I think there's going to be a dark line here, and then probably back to a blue colour in the middle. For the thruster? No. Maybe like a metal, or just another bright shape in the centre of something. I think we should have more thruster, basically. I'm going to do a black outline on the thruster as well. Should we put a spike on the front of the ship? No. Or I could make this edge a little bit more concave as well. It might make it look more sporty. It's not bad. I'm going to detail this thruster a little bit more. Actually, how much time have we got? We've still got 2 minutes. I want to change the colour of the planet to be a bit more blue. So I'm going to do that just a different kind of blue. Or maybe more like a purplish. What colour haven't we used yet? That's how you build colour palettes, really. I'm going to put some orange in it. I just want it to look like it's not so blue or green. Because the space station is kind of greenish and the spaceship is blue. So I just want to pick a unique colour for the planet that's different to either of them. Although it kind of ended up looking a bit more like the space station, but whatever. That's why it's a preliminary as well, because you might do a preliminary and then... Oh, that blue shadow on the space station made it look really cool. You might do a preliminary and then... You know, when you do the final, you can just do a different... You can critique the preliminary. And then when you do the final... You can do the planet in whatever colour you want, right? I'm just trying out these dots. They're supposed to be like where the ship flies into. They're like the space ports. Makes them look a little bit golf ball-y. I don't like it though, it looks a bit trypophobic. I'm gonna leave it. It looks cool. It's unique at least. I was kind of going more for like a tetrahedron type thing. I can still possibly do that just by making the edges look like it's in lots of straight lines like that, you see? And that can suggest a more geometric look than just like just a literal sphere. You see, you just get to slowly, gently build a composition together. I'm going to put some swirly clouds on this planet if I can. Make it look more like a planet. But it's really just kind of abstract. I'm just making it up as I go along with the planet. That's that. I'm going to cheat and spend just a few more seconds. I feel like I can get away with more highlight on the ship's body maybe. Especially right here on the nose. Right, so there you go. And that's what I mean by the readability gets up, because I bet you... I don't know if everyone could at this detail tell what the image is of a spaceship flying away from us and space station in the background and a planet in the background further. But more people could read this and, you know, tell you what it is, recognise what it is, or a picture of, than could read this. It's interesting, but I could still read this just as well because I was already primed by having, you know, I'm the one that painted it. I already had the idea in my head, right? And if I told you what it was, you might be able to see it easier. Readability is very interesting, how subjective it is, but how, you know, pivotally important it is to the work. Like I say, readability first and then believability. Make it look realistic second. Most important thing is that people can just tell what it is. Even if you make it less realistic to do so, a lot of the times that is that is actually something I will do. I would make lighting that doesn't make any sense realistically and that you wouldn't see if you had something in real life and took a photograph of it, but it's a decision that is made to improve the composition so it actually looks more readable often, or sometimes it'll often make it look less believable but more readable when you do that. But oftentimes you get away with it still looking just as believable, because if it's just a little shadow that you've changed and cheated on and bent the rules a little bit, people won't notice. If it's good enough to fool yourself, it's good enough to fool the audience. It's kind of the saying that I use. So there you go. That is, how many paintings did we get done in it was 2.5 hours, and we managed to get 5 paintings done. So it is about 2 paintings an hour, which is nice. It's a nice output, that. I think my favourite one, obviously it's going to be one of the more futuristic ones, one of the more surreal ones. I quite like this space station. So I might try and do a similar thing, but it needs something more interesting. That's why I was thinking like a tower in the background, or, you know, something that makes it look like it, less like, what's it called? Less generic. This shit one's quite cool, and this is pretty ungeneric too. I think it looks quite unique, especially this design for the space station with all the little cheese holes in. Yeah, I think my least favourite is probably the portrait, actually. I don't know if we can get a bit more detail on that. Like I say, the portrait, 15 minutes is it's probably too short and too low detail for something like a portrait often, but still, we still got the composition there, which is the important part, and it shows how you can start with something that, and here I intentionally stylized it more like this, but more like a child's painting right at the start, more block colours, that are simple and basic, but you can kind of start easily and in this unintimidating way, and then slowly work your way up to something that you maybe, especially if you spent more than 15 minutes, especially if you upped the time or just did unlimited time, you might end up painting something that you never thought you could, because you were given the courage to do so by starting it out in this kind of quote-unquote pixel art approach. So there you go. Anyway, I'm getting quite hungry now, actually. My stomach is definitely on the rumble, so I'm going to sign out, and don't think I'll be on again today, but in the next few days I might do 2 streams. 2 streams back-to-back, 2 3-hour ones, so we'll see how things go. Right then, I'm going to sign out. See you around next time.